That is very humbling.
Perfect. All right. Welcome to the May meeting. And thank you for your flexibility on adjusting time. So at least 3 people in this room can go to the 8th grade graduation. Originally scheduled meeting. So the agenda was emailed out. I don't think I have any updates to it. I can accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then Paige, subbing in for Tori, emailed out the minutes. Get a chance to look over them. I'll also accept a motion to approve the minutes unless there are any edits.
Motion.
Here, second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any approved? All right, have the hearing. Yes, any approved. I don't know. All right, Jonathan.
Aye. Yes. April is done. Yeah. Almost done with May. Hold on. Seriously. Fantastic. I think I forget which era this was. Down. Down? Yeah. There it is.
Yes.
It was down. Curtis is right. Awesome. So quick picture of the balance sheet. Cash was a little bit higher than last month at 784,000. Again, this is end of month snapshot, so it doesn't account for the rest of the month spend, but this is where we're at the end of the month. So a little bit more than half of that was in the savings account. We'll see the breakdown of that here in a moment. Deferred revenue is at 13,360. The majority of that was in a majority of the deferred revenue previously was the EPA bus money.
Yeah.
And so as we sort of wrap up the year, I'm gonna do a more in-depth review of deferred revenue and see if there's any that we can capture this year. And we'll see. So I'll keep you guys updated as to if there's any that we can claim against stuff that's already been spent. Because I think a significant portion of it was the summer reading camp money from this past summer. So likely things that were already spent in this fiscal year. So year to date, because of the EPA bus money, we're now above where we budgeted for revenue for the full fiscal year. The EPA grant wasn't a part of the revenue, which is why federal funding looks so high as well. So state funding is still a vast majority of that, and May and June are the ones that are going to be funded off of the 135-day count. So we'll have a better idea moving forward as to what funding will look like for the end of the year here in about 2 weeks. And then I'll also an approximation of where July and August will fall as well, as far as state funding goes. And local revenue, a significant chunk of that is the donations that Sarah has gotten for the school. Just fantastic. Tell her to keep up the good work. She's doing amazing. So that's awesome. We'll move forward toward expenses, 5.8 million, still net deficit of 248,000. I still expect a partial recovery as we move toward July. It's how I've seen you guys trend. So still not like a $500,000 month, but definitely quarter to quarter. Q3 and the beginning of Q4 have looked better than Q1, which is what we expect. We expect higher spend as the school year starts up, and then sort of the beginning of Q3 as the semester kicks back up as well. So The net income, the net deficit is getting closer to zero month over month. Instructional spend is still a little low compared to, that, again, I think a big chunk of that has to do with, both the spend for attorney fees for forbearance and then, the buses and a lot of the capital projects are more considered administrative expenses as opposed to pure instructional. And then key metrics, look at cash, 300,000 in the checking account, 475 in savings, what I was mentioning. Over half of it is in savings, puts us at just over 65 days cash on hand. Trailing 12-month net income dipped a little bit while our year-to-date net income got better. That is just a variance that was in the previous year's financials. So net income in would have been April of last year dipped, which was what impacts the trailing 12-month net income. But our actual debt service coverage ratio is still at 0.04, which is a slight uptick from last month, simply because of some capital expenditures. There was a refrigerator purchased, covered by a grant, a local grant. I think there were walkie-talkies as well. So those two things are capital additions that we then add back to, bottom line for our covenant calculation. So still ahead of the curve for both of those. And so year to date, I mentioned, we're accruing higher than MADS this year so that we can move forward and have an appropriate accrual next fiscal year. So as the expenses take month over month, it will then align more closely to the budget that we have. The debt service that's in the budget is accurate to the debt service schedules that the US Bank has provided. And so that's puts us at a 2.04 and 65.5 days cash on hand. That is our quick overview. Do you guys have any questions for me?
I don't remember, I know there were some questions at the end of the last board meeting and then some email because our debt service coverage ratio is so high right now. Some of the other expense like the sign, and did we land anywhere with that? Do we know?
Yeah, it sounds like Copper's advice was to push that into next fiscal year so we can use that add back.
Oh, for capital.
So,
Okay.
yeah, the recommendation was, I mean, as close as you can get it in, you know, end of June, if the work's finished in the beginning of July, so that the expense can be taken.
Okay.
In July, so that, you know, our debt service coverage is great.
Yeah.
For this year, mainly because of the bus grant, which is fantastic. But just sort of strategically speaking, that I think that would be the best.
Yeah.
Way to aim that.
Which would make sense. I think with the charging station purchase too, that will also help. So I think any capital add back will help debt service that we can push off into next year would be helpful. Since it's only 1 year.
Yeah.
Little hack.
Yeah.
Chris, do I remember that Sarah's working on getting some donations to cover the charging station? That's
Yeah.
great.
I have a small update in my principal's report about some good news and something.
Didn't we still use it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's all I have. And as always, if you guys have other questions. But instead of leave it, I'm gonna hang out for the rest of it.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you, Jonathan. I think that takes us down to, as promised from the last meeting that we didn't get to, just a conversation about financial processes in general. I think, several things to kind of, I think, set the tone of this conversation and kind of some of my like personal philosophies and beliefs. One, I'm not one of those people who find like arguing or disagreeing or conflict for the sake of conflict fun. But I am someone that thinks it's really hard to solve a problem if you don't speak it and address it and allow like space for all voices to be heard and ideas to be shared. And I think what we've learned, especially over the past year, like just one there's a lot of changes. We had a new financial advisor. As a board, we recommended some new ways of doing things. We were in forbearance for the first chunk of this year that brought like a whole host of different things. So I think a lot around this table would perhaps agree that there's been some learning curves and some frustrations, and I think sometimes frustrations can also come if there's not clarity, which is kind of my first goal is really just be very clear on like roles and responsibilities amongst, I would say, the three different parties, which would be, board of directors, kind of what are our responsibilities? Like leadership staff from lead, like what are those responsibilities? And then for Copper Financial, like what is the expectation and responsibilities for that? And just be really clear about kind of where everybody's role is. And then I think once we're kind of clear on that, then having clear expectations, like what, in order for all the three parties to effectively do their responsibilities, like what's needed and when's it needed by. And so I think kind of having some discussion and framework around that. And then, so I think that gets the, what and the when, and then we get to the how. And so amongst the three groups, like how do we all work together effectively? And within that, I think zooming above it, like how do we all trust each other? And because relationships work best when there's trust amongst the three parties. And so I don't think like frustration, I don't think we're gonna wave a magic wand and we're gonna have this conversation and now like everything's super smooth sailing. But I'm really hoping that by having space to, have kind of open dialogue and conversation, that we can at least provide clarity and start to work to have a more efficient, effective, collaborative, and trust process kind of moving forward. So for the board responsibility, I can answer that part. The board kind of at its core has a fiduciary responsibility. It's why every single meeting, we're gonna look at spreadsheets and we're gonna look at financials, and we're gonna make sure kind of those things are in line with the budget that is also the approved or needs to be approved by the board. So board approves budget and then board reviews financials to make sure kind of we're holding in line with that budget. I think with the addition of the debt service that we have at one of our fall meetings, we had also set kind of as board responsibility that we want to hold to the debt covenant. So when we pass budgets, when we're reviewing financials, it's always kind of with that piece in mind as well. And then we can argue and we get the kind of determined process. I think we can jump down if it's still needed, but according to the bylaws that we're currently operating on, the board also approves all contracts. So those kind of broader picture, budget, reviewing financials against the budget, which then holds against debt service, and then contracts that kind of live within or sometimes outside of that budget are board responsibilities. Are there other thoughts, opinions, anything that you would add to what a board's role is?
I mean, reviews doesn't say like what might follow a review. Like,
yeah.
The board reviews the financials on an ongoing basis, and assuming the review, everything looks great, obviously, then the board's probably not taking action.
Yeah.
But if the board reviews and determines something doesn't look good or appropriate, is there a different responsibility of the board now beyond review?
Like more of an accountability sort of piece,
I don't know,
or,
but
yeah,
review sounds like put your eyes on it.
good question.
But then what your eyes see, what do you do?
Yeah.
Is, I think, important for the board to know and
Yeah.
understand. What should the board be looking for? What should the board speak up about? What should the board keep their hands out of? In those reviews?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I think kind of, at least how we've lived it for the past couple years, I think that Ross, kind of what you're speaking on, has looked more in terms of like amending and updating budgets.
that's it, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we could talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say contracts, is this teacher contracts? Are we talking about vendor contracts? And the reason I'm asking is because I would say that statement is interesting, like the board approves all contracts, because historically, that has never been the role of the board. If it has not been enforced.
Mhm.
And when it was enforced, it felt like this weird quirky thing around Avila seemed like an outlier. That was not a regular practice. I think that was in response to this bondholder enrollment plan. So I guess I'm interested in like, what does that look like in real time? Of like, should we be presenting contracts at every board meeting? Historically, we signed lots of contracts. When we changed curriculums last year, there was lots of conversation from the academic committee around our new curriculum, our new ELA curriculum, our math curriculum, like, is that best for the school? Details around what's involved in that. But there was never a question around, let us read a contract and approve it. And so I guess I'm just kind of curious of like, if that's real, what does that look like?
Yeah.
In our committees, the board. Because there are also sometimes we have, like you pointed out, we have an academic committee,
Mhm.
and then maybe other people on the board were not aware of the conversation that was happening in committee. And sub that out for any committee. What I think I want clarity on, what is the board? Is it any committee, any subgroup of that? Along with the all contract?
Yeah, let me look. I'm pulling up our official bylaws and I can read you the like exact wording for that. Specific to teacher and staff contracts, it's also in the bylaws, but it's under one of the committees, to your point, because they're also supposed to annually review like teacher contracts, who's accredited, who's not. And typically what that looks like, at least from my perspective, I would not see it where we are looking at every single teacher contract, but it would be, here's kind of the contracts that we're looking at, like general staff contract, like, yep, we're good with the verbiage. Here's the list of staff that we're hiring that goes with the budget and the staffing schedule. Here's if they're accredited or not, because that's something that, we have to report on. And then similar to grants, like if that's all presented at the academic committee's like, yep, we think that's good, then it just comes out of a recommendation and then the board just says, yes, we agree with the academic committee. Because committees, in the like servicing, committees can make recommendations, but they can't officially vote to approve things. That's got to be at a board level.
That's why, and you check the mentoring. You're welcome. So what it's like.
I think, if we can, for timing, if we can, circle back, I'm still gonna look up those and I will interrupt that.
And I would say,
Yeah.
what you outlined is, I think that's what should happen in academic community with teacher contracts. I would just say, I would want more clarity around just like vendor contracts, like any other, like, if we're signing a contract that involves paying for a service, is that the same thing?
Yeah.
Is there, you could even discuss, either the length of the contract, whether a year, 3 years, 5 years, and the dollar amount of the contract and give conditions. But I cannot tell you what you should do.
Yeah.
But an idea that could be beneficial.
How do you see other schools handling it that you guys work with?
We sort of see a wide range. I have one school that we work with whose board approves every single invoice above a certain dollar amount. And it's board chair has to lay eyes on it and give it the go ahead, and then there's a certain range for that, and then you get even higher than that, entire board has to vote on it. And then we have some that are a little bit more lenient, and some of those are smaller than lead. And so it's sort of a picture of both the willingness of the board to be involved in governance, but also the size of the school, because with scale comes with more power comes more responsibility. With that scale comes more responsibility, and so that those are the sort of two ends of the spectrum that we see. And lead falls somewhere in the middle of that continuum.
So I mean, this is maybe a different angle, but I think the board approves the budget. So what I would think about it is, well, if somebody is signing a contract that financially fits within the budget that we have already approved, my thought would be, we already gave you permission to spend that money.
Yep.
We don't need to see it again. So I feel like on the financial side, the budget, if it's outside of budget, then it should come, the modified budget comes to the board.
Yep.
If it's more than the money, if it's like, no, we want the legal side of like whatever the legalities in this contract are, we need eyes on that. I don't know that our board would be super qualified.
Yeah.
Like, are we gonna farm that responsibility out to an attorney that we have, that reviews all contracts?
Yeah.
And tells the board, but that's my take, is if we're protecting ourselves as the board
Mhm.
because of what might be contained in this contract, I get that, but I don't know who's reviewing that.
No, I'm with you. That's kind of how I see it too.
Like, we're answered, like,
Yeah.
we already answered.
Yeah, if
that
it fits
with the
within budget. So yeah, I think if it's outside of budget or if it's a multi-year contract, and I would put auto renewing ones in there too, because we only approve one
One
budget year
year,
at a time,
Right,
so.
right.
And we're also, I'd like to add, I think most of the time when the budgets are even approved, we have no clue of what, these categories are or what contracts are even included. And I think I think there should be some flexibility, like you said, within an amount that's already approved with the budget. I think it's most of the times we get these kind of requests midstream of the year to implement these, expenses, when I think the real thing is having a mechanism to track this throughout the year. So the folks that lead could see the actual pool of funds they have for each category on a more detailed basis. So gives them more flexibility to make informed decisions. So maybe I'm talking about maybe more in some type of more detailed, financials that they could read into on a, ongoing basis that would give them that flexibility. But I do feel like we should push it off the board, but with some restraints in place.
Yes, and we can I think some of that gets into the how on when we get into staff responsibilities and then,
Yeah,
who's responsible for what and what's needed.
and I would say to both of those points, to yours and Stanton's, There's not really a lot of mid-year contract signing unless it is a renewal, so it would be something that's planned for. I would say truly outside of this Avila situation, that never happens unless there's like something that we forgot about or some service that we just believe that we must have immediately. For instance, we have to pay for our curriculum. We've been talking about, the state gave us some free stuff last year and this year's not free anymore. So our like curriculum bill is going up.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we know that now, so we can like plan for it in next year's budget. But that's like, we have to have an ELA curriculum. We have to have a math curriculum. That's not really a whole lot we can discuss about that. Like, we must have a curriculum for next school year.
Yeah.
And so I get like, let's review it, let's look at it, let's make sure it's tight. But I mean, the state has, these are the curriculums that you can choose from. This is how much it costs. They're supposed to be free, but then we have other services that we have to have included in those curriculums of like to make our school work. And so I think, I guess that's, I don't know, I'm not asking for anything. I'm just trying to give clarity around.
Yeah.
It's in the budget. Usually there's not mid-year additions unless it is a very unique thing, a unique situation, or like there's just some emergency that we must have.
I have, as a side note.
I think it hasn't been a problem in the past because we haven't known about all the contracts that have been engaged into.
I've got a couple questions, Stanton. And I found the bylaws thing. For clarity, how many times do most contract renewals run July to June?
No, I would say most try
Okay,
to happen in the summer. I
okay,
think that's when we are asked for them.
okay,
And a lot of our more recent things, we've asked to like pay throughout the year and not in like a lump sum.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
yeah, I was trying more, like, if there's ones, the thought process behind is if a contract was running January to December, then we're running 2 different budget years, so I was trying to get a sense of timing.
Yeah, it's a little weird, yeah, so.
I was like, are there contracts that run calendar year?
Some do. There are
Okay.
some that do not fall like July to June.
Okay,
So some are like mid-year.
okay,
Some work on their business's fiscal year,
Yeah.
which is, could be January to December.
because I think in those instances, if it crosses over a budget that hasn't been approved, then I think that's when it would need. Because that's not technically in the budget.
Yes. We try to pay for, like, most of those are lump sums, so I would say,
Oh, so you can fit it in.
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And then just for, helpful language, and I want to get the disclosure that I did not write the bylaws, they predate me. It is Article 10 contracts, and it's literally one sentence in the entire article, and it reads, the Board of Directors of the corporation, which is LEAD, is the sole authority over legally binding agreements or contracts between the corporation and any individual, organization, or government entity.
Can you read that one more time? Is the sole,
Is the sole authority over legally binding agreements or contracts between the corporation and any individual, organization, or government entity. Which with individual does sound like the academic committee needs to approve staffing contracts, and then the board has to legally vote over staffing contracts.
Which is that's a pretty standard process in.
Yep.
Any school or district.
Alright,
well, that's interesting language to me.
so I want to
Because-
get the disclaimer, I did not write it.
Because the board probably has other authority at this school that we delegate.
Yeah.
We are still ultimately responsible,
Yep,
but we delegate that authority to leaders here. You know, and that's what they do, yes, puts our neck on the line, but we don't review it all or
Yep.
approve it all, we delegate it. So that wording doesn't say approves, it
Yeah.
just says is the sole authority,
Authority.
which I find
Hmm,
not tight.
Yeah.
You know, I think we get to decide how we exercise that authority.
okay,
That would be the way I hear that.
I feel that.
If we go back to trust, so I think that was a big part of this conversation. So I think, when we talk about, you mentioned the what, the when and how. So I think we talked a lot about like the process. I guess I'm just curious around like, how do those like, how does that process look? Um,
I think at least in my head, a good framework, and Paige, I'm gonna lean on you on how it actually looks, is the, kind of the role that we've fallen into with grant approvals right now. In that, you know, in the development committee, like Sarah Mitchell makes recommendations, like, here's grants that I'm looking at, like, here's the projects, here's what we need, there's a committee discussion about it. I don't know that there's been an instance where we're like, no, we don't want that money, but, you know, it could be like, hey, we want a grant to do this thing way out in left field. Well, like, maybe that's not for us. But all of these 6 grants, like, we think that's a fantastic idea, but, you know, Sarah kind of for the, you know, responsibility, like, it's coming from staff, because we haven't made it to AB yet, but, you know, like, you guys are the ones day to day, like, in the school, seeing the needs. You're the most in touch with, you know, what's going on. And so I think it makes sense, you know, back to the development, like, for recommendations to come from Sarah, because she knows what school needs and what she's going after. And then the committee kind of oversights, yep, we agree, Paige gets her master list, and then that's presented to the board of like, hey, here's what Sarah wants, and then we all say, yep, we're in agreement, and we vote and move on. And so I would see that being a similar process in, you know, the financial committee of like, hey, here's contracts that we're looking at. They all fit within the budget, or here's something like we really need that we think it's outside, like how do we make it work? And then the finance committee would make that recommendation at the next board meeting, and then it would be approved. Staffing contracts would, again, I don't think you actually need to look at all of the individual contracts, but there's just a list of like, here's the staff, here's the information that, you know, we need to present, and then academic committees like, nope, we think that's good. The finance committee has looked at what we'll get on the when, you know, does the staffing schedule fit into the budget? Like, can we afford what we want? And then, you know, out of the academic committee, that recommendation is made to the board, and we can kind of blanket approve that. How's that feel for you?
I think that's great.
Perfect. All right. Curtis, what do you feel like the staff's responsibility in financial processes is?
So I would say, our role is a little weird because I think as an independent charter school, we function kind of like building and district in one entity. So, I think most schools are not making budgets and are not like this in federal programs and talking to CPAs and things like that. So I think it's a little more nuanced than just what we should do. So, I think, if we're just talking about, I think we have a responsibility to like seek contracts that fit our school, seek vendors that fit what we're trying to do, whatever program I think that we are needing that fits in a budget. I think we try to responsibly make sure that that's something that we have either already planned for or will plan for to project for. And then I think, uh, we're having conversations around, is this something that can be a grant, title, things like that, where does it fit? And I think, we try to execute that. I think similar to Ross's point, I think we try to fit all of those things in the budget.
Yeah.
I personally believe that, finance committee is the time for like more detailed discussion around contracts and, purchases and federal programs and budget conversations. I would say what you just outlined, I think is a beautiful thing. I don't want to like beat a dead horse, but I think that if I'm thinking about Avila and that purchase, I think if we were having regular finance committee meetings that were agenda driven, that had the opportunity for like questions to be asked and raised, I think, or like, is there a contract coming up? I think that is the process. I think that would be, that I think all of these things would have worked well in. So I think that's a beautiful process, which I would include a monthly finance committee meeting.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we can debrief later and we can beat all the dead horses. I think my intention for this one is to figure out, like, as we move into next year, how can we make it less frustrating and better
Yeah.
than this year?
As we move into next year, I think a regular monthly finance committee meeting before the board meeting that involves an agenda would help a lot.
I would put time in there. It doesn't need to be before, it needs to be, a measure before the board meeting. I can tell when it's a board meeting day by what our conversations are driven by in the school hours.
I think on staff responsibility, just to try to dot all the Ts, and you can let me know if you disagree. I think it's the staff responsibility to, and we can get with Copper to start the budget creation process. I don't think you want the board I don't think you want the board taking the lead on that. Would you agree with that, or?
No, I don't think the board should take the lead on that.
Okay, so that would be a staff responsibility.
Prepare the budget.
I think, yes, I think a big picture, yes. I
Okay.
think when we get into like the details, I think that's where this year there was some confusion around expectations around what had happened in procedures with Prestige versus Copper.
Yeah.
And so I think, yes.
Okay. And then I think it's also the staff's responsibility to, like, make basically spend the money according to the budget.
Operate within the budget.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, make all of those like little spending decisions.
Now, there was moments in time where we talked about if something is over $5,000 or a threshold, that should be about, is that just finance committee also?
That is there's a procurement policy
Yes.
that we have to have. Oh,
Hey, Jonathan, is there anything that we can do, like when Curtis and the folks decide to spend like $5,000 or $10,000 in technology that we've already, budgeted for, and there's technology in various categories for him to know kind of more real time how much is spent in that category, how much is left, just a kind of another component of him having flexibility to reallocate as long as it makes sense, but also be able to keep up with it to be able to make those informed decisions. I think that is a component that has not been there that would certainly enhance the school's ability to see these expenses in real time and manage it, I think, more efficiently.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we can explore, especially with the functionality of QuickBooks. You have access to that, right?
I was gonna say, since we've had access to QuickBooks has become a lot easier
Fantastic.
for
Okay,
us to
good.
track in real time.
Yeah, so that's one thing I don't know if I can break it down by school function. I'll dig into that a little bit deeper, but I know for certain I can upload a budget.
Okay.
To QuickBooks for you to view a true budget versus the actual report. Now, it won't look like the report you've been seeing, because
That's good news.
so we pulled data
Well,
out of
QuickBooks is
QuickBooks.
so just,
Yeah, very straightforward.
straightforward.
So-
Yeah.
There's a function that shows it by department, which is really good.
Yes.
That's what I do
So-
the most.
So that's the data we pull it, then we translate it into the document that I print out and send it to you guys.
And Stan, that's what you're asking, right? Is where they could see budget to actual at any time.
In real time, yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, especially with the fiscal 27 budget, once that's approved and we've got it locked down, I'll put it into the system. And so then you'll be able to view not only where you're at actuals, but also where the budget stands compared to that. And you don't have to hold a piece of paper over here and have your computer open over here.
Right.
But I'd love for it to be a real place for you.
It is, so the procurement policy. It actually has nothing to do with board approval. That language isn't in here, but anything exceeding $10,000, you must get 3 written quotes.
Yes.
That is for the district.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of SC code and competitive steel. So yes, if it's over 10,000, you have to get 3 different quotes, but we don't need to see them.
Is that unless they're on approved list? Is there an approved?
Yes, there's like
Yeah.
a state approved list that bypasses that.
If a state approved contract is used, no request is required. You also don't need them for postal stamps or PO boxes. All right, did we cover staff responsibility? Is there anything I'm forgetting?
I mean, I think in line with the preparation of, like, they prepare the budget, recommend it to the board. Then they're operating within the budget. And then it seems that if the budget needs to be amended, that would begin with like the staff making recommendations. Or,
One caveat I would add is that Copper review the budget with lead before they present it to us. Like the one that was presented tonight was not reviewed prior to that. I think that would add a lot of value and give comfort, I think, with the board that a lot of the details have been asked, or the questions have been asked that, would help us get more comfortable looking through those.
Well, Stanton, I think that's a really good segue to AC, which is, what is Copper's responsibility?
I just wanted to say, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, let's say we're in a board meeting and we see that, oh, we're dropping below our bond covenant requirement numbers.
Yep.
Do we start talking about like whether to not buy uniforms,
Brainstorming.
or do we send it, like, I know we're kind of in process, but it depends on whose responsibility that is.
Yeah,
If it's the school's responsibility to now go figure out what budget recommendations they make to
Yeah.
get us in line with where we need to be, it would be kind of that same, we're repeating what we did.
Yep.
To get a budget.
Yep.
To get a revised budget. I don't know if that sounds right or not, but I wanted to raise that.
No, I think that's helpful.
It's the same responsibility, but it's at a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who's taking the initiative? And then when do other players kind of?
Who's recommending the revisions to the
Yes.
budget? Whose
Yeah.
responsibility is that?
No, I like since the entire budgeting process, I think, starts with staff. I like that the revisions would also start with staff.
Which, I mean, is interesting. It's like, well, then will they know ahead of the board meeting we're not in compliance, that could be a copper thing, you know, like, oh, here's where we are, we need to come to the board meeting with some recommendations.
Yep.
Or is the board gonna be happy to wait another month to get those?
Yep.
So,
Yeah, no, and I think that's good on process, because I do have questions once we get on copper as far as timing. And
Yeah.
like when financials are reconciled, so that when we can have a regularly scheduled. Like financial meeting that's before the board meeting, and therefore like when does the board meeting happen? Cause I think some of that is like, it's also really crunched in when all of that happens currently,
like,
so.
you know, it's killing me not to be putting this on the whiteboard right now, but we'll hear from Copper, and then I'm gonna head to the whiteboard and just see if it, like, yeah.
You totally can.
Thank you. Yeah. But I don't wanna preempt, you know, what else might be coming, we'll try to organize it.
Can you do it, Ross?
Okay.
All right, so Jonathan, what do you see as copper's responsibility?
I have an engagement letter pulled up.
Perfect.
So, can I read it? I've got kind of a dull voice, so just bear with me. So we provide 5 different services to you guys. So accounting, payroll, tax, consulting, technology. So as far as tax services goes, that is solely preparing and submitting the 1099s at the beginning of every calendar year. Technology is providing access to the financial data. So we have a secure platform called Canopy. We don't typically use that with the school, but we have access to it if there needs to be sensitive information passed back and forth. All the financial information that's sent to you guys is public anyways, so it doesn't need to be sent through a secure platform. But if there needs to be any information sent that way, can't use it. I'm not sure if you guys have access, but if you need it, we'll give it. That's not a problem there. Again, preparing monthly financial reports with analysis and detailed benchmarking ratio results. And as far as payroll goes, preparing payroll, issuing payment. So this is our payroll department at Copper, handles things like this: calculation of amounts for employee payroll deductions for health insurance and administration of retirement plans, and the verification of accounts payable amounts. Preparing and remitting all monthly, quarterly, and annual payroll filings. Told you I have a dull voice for.
You're doing great.
Preparing and issuing annual W-2s. Now to the good stuff. Accounting services, pay all accounts payable invoices online via secure online platforms, which is where we use Bill.com. Importing, categorizing, classifying transactions for bank accounts and credit cards, and performing bank and credit card regulations. That is our standard monthly closeout process. In addition to maintenance of the fixed asset files and updating as necessary. We share that responsibility with Martin Smith in conjunction with your annual audit. But we keep track of that on an ongoing basis with, 1, a report provided by the auditor, but 2, through our capital outlay during the fiscal year. We keep an eye on that, review things that are added there so that there's nothing that's there that shouldn't be. And that sort of ties nicely with our ratio analysis that we provide. Analyzing the monthly EFA, EIA funding schedules to ensure the district calculation is tied to the actual enrollment figures. So just things that sort of we do as sort of a second nature review while we're going through finalizing financials for you guys, that we don't necessarily share a detailed blurb about, okay, this tied out, we're good. But that, okay, the monthly funding is true to how it has historically been for the period based on the enrollment count, things like that, that I sort of hit a high level on. Preparing monthly financial statements for board and administrative review with year-to-date, prior year-to-date budgetary analyses. Talk about that every month. Preparing reimbursement request packets and posting related Smart Fusion entries. That is something I handle with some of our team and with Suzanne primarily. Uploading activity to Smart Fusion as needed, as well as monitoring tasks in Epicenter. And that is our accounting services. As far as consulting, this is what I wanted to hit on with you guys, because I think we started to get there in the discussion about the budget.
Mhm.
The very first line under consulting is providing consulting and advisory services and financial analysis and budgetary assistance. So we don't make the budget, but we assist, we review. And so if that looks like a formal call, a Teams call, me coming on site and sitting down here with you guys and talking me through, hey, is this reasonable? Hey, how does this look compared to actuals? Hey, what is this? What does this number mean? What's here? I'm more than happy to do that. But just a conversation away from having a meeting like that. Performing bond covenant calculations to ensure compliance, we do that. Attending, this is monthly video conference calls, but I'm here. Hey guys.
Yes.
Assisting leading calls with the finance committee as needed. And then assisting gathering information requests surrounding the annual audit. So we work with the school to, they call it PBC, from the audit prepared by client. So, we'll work with the school to make sure that the auditors have everything that they need for the annual audit. But that is a very long list, that I can send back to you guys. It was signed, when? May 19th. Oh, exactly a year ago today.
Oh.
So, happy anniversary, guys.
Right.
But that's a long list of our responsibilities as of today.
Perfect. Kate, did you get all that?
Yeah.
All right, Ross with the whiteboard. Yep.
This is first stab. So we need abbreviations, there's.
Yeah.
Okay, board can be B, staff can be S, Robert can be C.
Yeah.
So the staff prepares the budget. We're like at the starting point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I am wondering, is there something on that consulting side that they need from Copper before they can do that?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think, keep going.
Well, so Copper. Provides what, like what,
Review, I think, I think that's where I have questions around. So I heard review.
What we
I
actually,
think he was saying like y'all prepare it and then Copper looks at it before it comes to the board.
Right, but I think in, where we started this year is that we had no starting point, and so I think that's where it got confusing.
Starting point is in
The template,
template, okay,
and so if I'm listening to what we agreed to, it doesn't sound like providing a template is a part of what we agreed to, so that's what I'm wondering. What is the,
Well, under consulting, there was that, it was general, but it was like, they're there to provide aid in budget preparation.
if the template is true, then it was vague in what he presented, so I would wonder clarity.
I mean, what do you think about
The
that?
phrasing is budgetary assistance.
Okay,
Yeah.
So if that's a template, it's broad and it's not for a reason. So like, I'm not going to create the budget, but if there's a template that would help you guys, that's what we can do to step in. That's within the scope of what you guys have engaged us to do.
okay.
which I think worked well once we got to that moment of realizing that's what we needed. And then to like the back and forth that happened to like get all the things in one place.
That's right.
It now feels like we probably won't have that argument again. We won't need to like go through that process again. We'll just say, hey, copy paste, like
Yeah.
make a
Right.
copy of this and update.
A template that you can
Yeah.
update.
Yeah, and I think that's some of what, mapping this out and when we jump back to B, like putting some general timelines with it.
Mhm.
If it's helpful, so, I had a meeting, I'm gonna go on a little tangent, but I promise it has a purpose, Ross. It was very, so I had a meeting with a donor who put like a visual in my head that was very helpful. And the conversation was as far as like how you follow up with people and if it's a brand new person, like, don't leave it vague, like, am I supposed to call you? Are you supposed to call me? Like, am I supposed to wait a week? Like, who has the ball, basically? And I've started using that a lot in my staff meetings and leadership meetings. That's been really helpful of determining like who is carrying the ball and when it gets passed off. So I think that's what this process is. So like at the very beginning, Copper has the ball and they are providing the template. I have some questions if you guys also need, if they stay the same or in order to prepare the budget, like, is there more information? I know we've asked for like ratios, we're supposed to generally kind of stay within. Is there, because, you know, they're kind of in line with the legislator, we'll get in timing, but like,
Yeah.
what sort of, you know, like, is there, so like, does the ball start with Copper? And Copper, it has the template and provides like general state legislative charter school and general recommendations. And then Copper gives the ball to the staff. And then the staff has the ball to make the budget.
I would say what worked well previously.
Yeah.
It felt like, with Prestige. At some moment in March, maybe late February, early March, that became like school budget season. And I don't know if this was a process for all schools that they worked with, but it was like, it's budget time. And so we would receive communication from them that basically was, here's your template. Here's a time for us to meet and review whatever. We're gonna go line by line and talk about how much do you want? Here we are, like year to date. Do we want to try to increase this? Do we want to try to decrease this? And then that will go up for review, and then we will readjust as we got more actuals the next time. And we would kind of go through that same process. I think that was a lot of my expectation, I guess, of like, I felt like Copper works with schools. I felt like it would be logical that we would just enter budget season for all schools, and then there's like a process that happens to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And so, to your point,
This year we were
who has
confused
the
as to
ball
who has the
and
ball.
who moves?
Yeah,
Yeah, if, I think.
Let's just agree it's the school going forward to take the ball as far as planning the budget goes, and Copper's already in their agreement agreed to do the consulting and help out, you know, as much as needed.
Yeah,
Well, we
so it might actually start with school initiates.
Yeah.
Asking for the template to be provided,
I like
and
that.
then Copper provides the tip, like.
Yeah.
If the ball's on us, I think we probably just need to say, hey, we're ready to get going.
Let's
Can you
enter
have
budget
these
season.
things? Yeah, because as he described, like the MADS changes, the formulas for funding change, and there's no real point in us doing any of that, like any of our work, until those nuances are actually like settled.
That sounds great. Let me see if I missed anything.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't have anything about contracts up here at the moment, but I guess this is really tied to the budget and the budget's relationship to the covenants.
Yep.
School requests a template. Copper provides the template. The school prepares the budget. Copper reviews the budget. The board approves the budget.
Yep.
I don't know if there's finance committee
Yeah,
in there.
Yep.
Before.
yeah, I put Copper reviews, finance committee reviews.
budget, alright? So now we have a budget.
Yeah.
And then the school operates within the budget.
Would it be right to say that at staff's recommendation, the board approves this, correct? The staff is recommending in a financial committee, that's where we're at.
Finance committee would recommend.
Finance committee would
Yeah.
recommend, yeah. Good point. Recommends. Then, now we have a budget. The school operates within a budget. Copper is tracked, I mean, there's so much, they're doing all the bookkeeping and reconciliation that leads to preparing monthly financial statements for the board. But there's a lot in here that is like Copper and the school just on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
And then, but the board is now gonna be getting a monthly, or we already do, but it results in the board getting a monthly financial report. And then this is just kind of like, assuming everything's smooth, this is what's happening.
Day to day.
I did put up here because it came up like, it was in the engagement letter even, that they will even, if asked, participate and support the finance committee meetings. So regular finance committee meetings between the board and the school and Copper if needed.
Yep.
Copper runs bondholder compliance numbers and reports to the board. I guess that's a part of it.
It's alongside kind of.
Yeah. And then the school recommends budget revisions. That could because of something that changes at the school. It also that could be initiated because we're getting out of compliance.
Yep.
But the school would recommend the budget revisions. And then the board would approve the budget revisions.
Yeah, I think the budget revisions would follow the same process as about, yeah.
Finance committee.
I think Copper would review.
Oh. Good. All right,
You can just shove it in the side.
let's do this. It would be Copper review.
Yep.
Board. No, finance.
Board,
committee.
finance, yep.
It's the board, but it's the finance committee. Review and recommend. To the board. For approval.
And I think I would follow that same process if there, because it's really a budget revision, if there are contracts that are outside of the budget. I think it would follow that same process.
In other words, it's held within this, or we
It would
say that.
No, it would just be, I don't think you need to rewrite
Yeah.
it, but I think kind of within that, like, staff
would
recommends
be a-
budget, it would
yeah.
follow that same process.
Yeah.
It would just be budget revision via contract.
I mean, I kind of have this weird contract question, but it's similar to what I was saying, like if we issue a teacher contract and then we don't actually have enough students for that role next year. I mean, we can't keep them, for example, so what does it mean to terminate that contract?
Yeah,
I kind of feel that way a little bit in the discussion around, well, if we're signing a contract mid-budget year and they don't want to do a 5-month and then renew, we can always request that. But if they're like, no, this is a 12-month contract, but no board can obligate the next year's board, period.
Yeah.
Right? So I kind of feel the same way. Yeah, we can do it, but like if the next board with the next budget won't approve that contract, it's going to get broken.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know that that's. Is it a problem? Like for a board to say, well, I know that board signed that contract, but we're not
Yeah,
gonna
but we're
honor it.
yeah,
You know, I guess we could pay a penalty or,
yeah. yeah, I think then it would be up to that board.
It's like we would see it when the budget gets presented. We would see if the contract was signed in February, it's for a year, it's gonna show up in the next budget,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And we're
And then I
gonna
think-
approve it or not.
Yeah. And then I think it's to that board deciding, do we honor the continued contract or
Breach it.
breach it, and then what's the penalty for that? And so that's the decision that the board makes at that time.
Right,
I
which
think that-
takes a little pressure off of like, we have to decide now in February if we're gonna do this next year.
Right.
I mean, we are saying that if we sign a 12-month contract, but I think all I'm saying is I do think in those rare cases, there's room for a board to say, well, this wasn't
Not
our
a good idea.
decision, it was not our budget, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I think multi-year contracts would kind of fall more into like what you're describing. And I think that's kind of tricky, and I think that's a place that really needs some discussion.
Mhm.
Because a lot of these companies are used to serving big districts where they can afford like. So they really have no incentive to working with us because we're so small, we have such a small number of students. So they would rather work with bigger districts that have more money. So the only like leverage that we have to get a better price or get a more affordable price is to sign a multi-year contract.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And so if we want their service and we want to like get it at sometimes districts will go in together and like buy things to get it at a discounted rate and things like that. And so we don't have that kind of leverage. And so we literally only have
right,
a multi-year contract to get the price that we can like afford.
right.
And so I think that's the nuance, right? So I think we don't really want to sign multi-year contracts if we don't have to, but if we like really value the service and we
And
want
it
it,
gets you a
and
good
we-
deal.
yeah,
Yeah,
we signed a multi-year to get the deal.
and I
Is
just
the
was
hope
trying
is
to
to-
alleviate the board feeling like
Just committed
More-
to a whole.
more responsibility to review all of that than we
Yeah.
actually should feel, you know. I think it'd be very, very rare, if ever, cases where it would need to be changed, but I think there is a out for the board, you know, if need be. So that might just make it smoother and easier when we're approving contracts throughout the year.
Yep.
To not be wondering if we can afford this in 2 years. I mean,
Yep.
yeah,
you know, we'll
Yeah.
decide when we get there.
yeah.
Perfect. All right, so I think with the process, is anything missing or unclear?
It's very logical.
I mean, this is maybe a can of worms, but it's like, well, what comes first, the budget or the teacher contract?
That's what I was jumping back to B, and now we're getting to the when.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So, yeah, I think that's the next piece. So I think we have what is needed, and we also have how it is going to work. Thank you very much, Russ. I'm gonna miss you dearly.
You can call me anytime.
Hello.
There's a mic.
Yes. So now we're getting to the when is this happening? Which is opening the can of worms, within the contract, teachers, when stuff gets signed, when agreements have to make, when.
I'm curious what
Budget is
Jonathan
created.
thinks, like, when do you?
Yeah,
think
Jonathan, do you have any insight? What about other schools?
For the charter school to be doing their budget for the next year?
I think there's sort of a couple of. I mean, there's one deadline that comes to mind, it's the end of the fiscal year. So you want to make sure it's done before June 30th, but the district anticipates it by mid to late September. That's when the deadline is, for an epicenter task to upload the budget. So,
Well, we're
Set-
definitely gonna have one by June 30th.
Put the budget in July before, so.
and that's really where my recommendation is to have it fully done by the end of June, but that can start, Curtis, to your point, that can start as early as March. We typically begin conversations with schools around late March, early April. As far as, you've ended Q3 at the end of March, you've got, especially, moving forward, if we've worked with the school more than a year, we've got a year's worth of
Mhm.
data that we can look at. And that we can sort of, one, we can communicate with you guys, you can communicate with us about, all right, what are trends you've seen? What are trends that you guys know happen on the school level? Hey, we had field trips at the end of the year. We've got a ton of supplies we buy at the beginning of the year. How does that fit into a full year's budget? As far as the timing specific goes, I would say right around tax time. I don't have a tax season, so that sort of helps our cause here.
And I will say kind of the elephant in the room, and where things got complicated this year was because I learned there's two different languages. When are offer letters given and when are staffing contracts issued?
So offer letters are usually with just new hires.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think hiring season for education is like February.
Okay,
And if we feel confident that we have interviewed someone that we want to move forward with, we want to be able to offer them. If we know that that's an open position, right? So intent letters go out like in December for current staff. So we
Yeah.
are,
if they want to come back or not.
so then if we know that there's like, somebody says no, then we know like we got to fill this third grade person that said no, they're not returning. So in February, we feel like we can confidently want to be able to offer offer letter to that person, know that that's a opening that we will need to fill.
Yep.
So, February is hiring season. And I think December is when we try to know where current staff is and if they're gonna return for
And
next
that's
year.
pretty early. I mean, that's here to most says, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're really looking for a no. There'll always be surprises. Some people say yes and then they won't, or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but we're really looking for like the definite no's that we can kind of at least have a place to start.
And how do you see, because, some of the thought process, and Curtis jump in when I'm incorrect, is, and how other schools do it as far as like, I don't think it's a reasonable expectation for us to have an official approved budget in February and March, because there's so much variables. But I think like, when does the board do an initial review of the budget? Is that what's required to start offer letters, staff contracts? Can we start doing that and then? And that, I mean, the offer letters and contracts and then do the budget later. The thought process this year was we want to do an official board review of the budget because staffing is our highest expense. So like, let's make sure the staff fits in it before we start issuing contracts. But then with the timing, that got complicated. So what,
And every school runs into the same, sort of question mark every year. And so I think the biggest indicator, because if staffing, payroll and benefits needs to be roughly 65% of your total revenue that you bring in, a majority of which is your stated classroom money. That stated classroom money, we don't have a figure that the district estimates. The district gives us an estimate based on the state's estimate.
Mhm.
And so there's sort of a game of telephone going on. And so we can give estimates based on how we see enrollment is going. And so I think as far as one, an approved budget in February is unrealistic.
Yep.
Having an idea or a ballpark of where you need to land, I think is reasonable, but you wouldn't have a concrete figure.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the rub there.
When
Well-
do you start to get those estimates from the state?
It depends. So for this year, we started to hear, I think we got a figure mid-April.
Okay.
As far as like, hey, this is a conservative estimate for where we anticipate, funding to land. And then it's sort of, I'm a math guy. It's a multivariable equation, right? We've got our per weighted pupil unit figure, that the dollar amount that the state gives to the district to allocate to the schools. We also have this educated guess as far as where is enrollment actually going to land. Because some students accept offers to come to Lee, some students move away. And there's sort of a constant tide of enrollment. And so it's multiple moving targets trying to be hit at the same time. So as far as, I think, if you guys say, hey, Jonathan Copper, we're going to start talking to people about coming back next year, letters of intent, stuff like that. Then we can take the best information, an estimate of enrollment from you guys, even if that's, is that the 45-day count? Is that just the count at that day? Some amalgamation of the two, maybe. And we can take that data and an estimate of where we anticipate funding to land, and then give you a percentage of where total salaries and benefits can go.
I like that idea way better than like, here's a whole preliminary budget.
Yeah.
But if he's saying, well, we could come up with here's a ballpark of what 65% would look like.
Yeah.
Do all your contracts fit within that?
You
But
have
where-
500,000 to spend.
Right, but we're not expecting when we do final approval of the budget at the June meeting or whatever, that it's gonna be exactly.
Yeah.
That number, yeah.
Is that reasonable to you guys? Because I know, because there are so many moving pieces, like we want to give you the information that you need, but sometimes we don't have the information to pass along, and so we can try and get you
Yeah.
an educated estimate on all of that.
Well, I think this is some of the, my frustration when we were trying to build a budget quicker than we traditionally have. It is nearly impossible without very important pieces of information. I think that per pupil number is very important, some type of projection. That 135th day number is very important. And that you're literally like, you're a slave of time, right? Nobody can make that day come any quicker.
Yeah.
And like, so like, they're just really important, like, an enrollment number, that 135th day number gives you a starting place to project for next year. And so I just, I wonder, I think there should be no restrictions to a budget being complete on positions that are required, such as like a K through 8 classroom position. We must have those positions, so there should not really be anything holding us back unless I'm trying to hire a teacher with 25 years and a doctorate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's gonna be. Yeah. So unless it's just this really expensive person that we want to hire, there really shouldn't be a lot of like waiting to offer that person a contract. I can kind of understand maybe like people from the related arts world, but there's a lot of nuance around those folks because they really drive how our schedule works. And so, and then driving our schedule, like those related arts folks really drive the schedule and really drive sped services being available to happen also. So there are just a lot of components that really make the whole school work that they're like, you can't compromise, like they must happen. And so I would start with at least any like K through 8 position. We should be able to move on those people at any moment throughout the year, unless it is an outlier.
Do you say contract or offer letter?
I'd say both. Like, I think we should be able to offer that person a contract. Now, if that needs to be that next committee meeting, or academic committee meeting, we're talking about, hey, we need to fill this position, and here's their contract, and here's their salary. And, but I think both.
So Curtis, when, I can't remember, but there was a point this year when y'all hadn't got, these would be the people, I guess, in December that said they are coming back.
Mhm.
But we hadn't gotten their things out to them yet,
Mhm.
whichever one that is. Not offer letter.
Into-
Contract.
Con-
Contracts are for returning, offer
Staff
letters are for
contracts.
new.
Yes.
And we hadn't gotten those out yet
Mhm.
because we didn't have a budget, and y'all were feeling like we're getting behind now, we don't wanna lose somebody.
Yeah.
When did those normally go out?
So contracts usually go out like late March. Like, we usually start rolling those out right after spring break.
Yeah,
That's when you have to put your sign the dotted line.
Right, because then there's state compliance around when they must be signed.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to, and that's like a chasing game, so
are the
like,
people that got offer letters also getting those, or they're already wrapped
So the
up
offer letter would come, let's say we like you,
in
in
February?
February, we would want to be able to give you an offer letter. This is how we missed one of the teachers.
Yeah, they wanna offer the.
They want
that letter
something.
immediately.
Yeah, they want something to
Something,
say,
I have a
yeah,
job.
I'm good.
Yeah,
Me continuing to email them being like, hey, we're
It's coming,
hoping,
yeah.
it's on the
It's
way.
coming,
It
yeah.
just, it don't
It-
work.
you would reach
Especially
point
for
where you're
the-
like, I don't believe you.
And for the candidates that we're talking about at that particular point in time, these are the people who are like making decisions to leave.
Yeah.
And making choices to move, not people who are being
Running.
forced to leave.
Right.
Had no decision in their move.
Right, right.
So we would want to be able to do offer letters and then the contracts. Kind of in line with when we're doing the rest
The
of
other
that,
half of
yeah, which is like after spring break moves. So that's also like
Yeah.
keep that in mind. Spring break is not a real time. It's not a real week. It's the school calendars.
So what if,
determine that.
just to put an idea out there to bat around, what if in terms of offer letters, they did what they always do, they fill positions, but in March, at the board meeting, we had this Copper estimates this amount. And y'all are saying, and the contracts that we want to send out fit within that amount. And the board approves that.
Is that realistic?
I think so. Now, if they don't fit within that, so just do
Yeah.
some prepping here.
Yeah,
Is that
what
a
do we
like,
do?
is
Well,
that likely?
it's reasonable that we heard that there was gonna be a move in the salary for the starting year teacher, for the first year teacher. So we've already adjusted our salary schedule to meet what we anticipate will be
The new,
the new,
Yeah.
which won't match the funding of the old. And he won't have the new number until mid-April. And so you would still be working off of old information in some parts of your formula and new information in other parts of your formula. And inflation is not helping with the way things are going.
how often, cause I think there's some, at least in my head, like, I feel like we could have some tiered approaches as far as like official contracts, we are locked in and where the board's comfort is and what numbers we have, what, so. I agree, like K through 8 education teachers, like we can't operate a school without those. That makes sense to me. How often are all contracts issued that last week of March?
What do you mean?
Any staff who's working here,
Uh,
it's issued end of March.
we rolled it, is the answer.
We roll them.
what does that mean?
I don't know how to answer that. It doesn't, we try, so on one side, it's 2 people doing them, so we try to like make sure all of the details are correct. And so we send them out in batches. And I think we have no real rhyme or reason sometimes on that process. I think there are some moments, I'm thinking, if this makes sense. I think there are some moments that we would, intentionally have some things be a little bit slower to make sure that, everybody still feels comfortable with the decision to move forward.
Mhm.
You read me.
Mhm.
And so that's sometimes why we will roll out contracts.
Is April too late?
Yeah, well, I think, if May first is the deadline, I think, the interesting part of the process is that we're chasing people for. So like they have to have time to have it, sign it and
Get it back.
get it back.
Yeah.
And so some people will get that email, print it, sign it, hand it to me right then and there.
So yes, April's too late.
Some people we chasing for 2-3 weeks trying to get their contract back.
Yeah.
And so I think we're trying to build that margin in of like,
Yeah.
let's make sure we have plenty of time for people to sign and return, and we have plenty of time to roll as we see fit with like, do we feel comfortable with this person moving forward with our organization?
Mhm.
Do they feel comfortable moving forward with our organization? And
Yeah.
trying to give like room for those things to happen.
Okay, a question that I have, and it might be we need to learn this and come back, type question, but so thinking ahead, if March is too early, if you have all of the information, and April is too late to issue contracts, the board only meets once a month. And so I think the problem is, and just how we navigate, and it's why I have a question on like, I know we're a right to work state, but I also know with the attorney, like there's other stuff with contracts and stuff going on and, my thought is, so like what happens if March, based on recommendations, and I'm pulling these numbers straight out of the air, so we have $500,000 to work with for staffing contracts. And so we find all of the people and academic committees like, yep, we like all of these people, they fit in the budget, they fit the ratio, they're certified, like all the things, check, yep, contracts are issued. And then we get updated salary numbers and updated 135th day count and stuff, and oops, turns out we have 475,000.
We're in June
Dollars.
to approve the final budget.
Yes, and so we've contracted above our budget amount. What happens?
So I think that, I think there's a philosophical difference in that I don't believe. I think staff is the easiest, quickest, biggest cut that you can make fast. I don't always believe that's the best approach. So I think when we say we need to ensure that the budget supports the amount of staff that we need, I don't believe that. I think that there are other things that can be cut. I think, right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, I think in our fundraising and donations, we're like at $233,000, which is in the history of Lead Academy, we've never done before. And this is Sarah's literal first year at doing this. And so I think that those are the creative things that I would like to explore outside of just cut staff. So I think the premise is what trips me up. I don't think cut staff is the only way to fix the budget.
No, but there are certain benchmarks that I've added them into your budget today, actually, just so that you can see it. Certain benchmarks that the district gives that they want to see for your budget when we inevitably upload it in September.
Yeah.
They look at All right, 65% of your bottom line.
And
Now that top line revenue figure does include things like contributions and donations. It does include your federal dollars that
Yeah.
are approved.
Yeah.
But again, I can't tell you what Joe down the street's gonna give me a
Right.
year from now.
And I think that's a better question. I think if we go beyond 65%, 100% cut staff.
That's the question.
Well,
think
that
we
was
say-
her question. That was her
Yeah.
question.
Is that if we, say Copper gives you a figure, you stay within that figure. Everybody's working off of estimates
Yeah.
here. Nobody can tell you the future, but if that does end up, revenue comes in lower, students drop off, whatever that looks like. And then 65% becomes a smaller number.
Yeah.
What happens then?
I think
Is-
the ratio is a beautiful. Yes,
And
Yeah.
I
that-
think our goal is to always stay in that.
And that's what, so
Yeah.
if the 500,000 was 65%,
Of top.
we got that
Yeah.
number by doing 65%.
Yeah.
And now it's June and 65% is 475.
Yeah. I would
That's
say
the question.
beautiful. I would say historically, there have been moments where we've built the budget where we've missed debt service, but still been in the 65.
Ah,
And so that's where in my logic, we're not overstaffed. So then we should not cut, that should not be the first.
so staff stay
Point.
within 65, but then if the debt service is an issue, we look
Elsewhere.
elsewhere.
And,
Yeah.
and to.
I got you.
To your point, Curtis, there's the actual breakdown of the district, 65, you've got your total revenue. So
But we could.
call it $6 million. That's not actually the number, but 65% of that is set aside for payroll and benefits.
Mhm,
10% of that is supplies and purchase services.
mhm.
So occupancy, so things related to the facilities, if that's utilities, if that's maintenance of the facility.
Is that
Is
debt?
that the
That is
bond?
also your debt service.
Correct.
That's 20% of your revenue.
Which I think was a question a while back.
Yeah,
Do we need to adjust? Because I think our occupancy is gonna come in high.
Yes, so
yeah, we
And
have
the-
included 100%,
the
so it-
remaining 5% is considered residual.
Yeah.
And none of this includes capital outlay because it's added back.
Yep.
And if this were a regular old business, that would be just a fixed asset that goes on the balance sheet and depreciated over time.
Yep.
So then
what is our occupancy?
as far as, let's see if I can look at what's going on. So I have the actuals put into budget. Somewhere. Occupancy currently is at 24%. Out of 20.
Okay,
As of April, and with April funding. However,
so we get 20, we're using 4 extra.
yes, that 4 just comes from somewhere else.
Residual, define residual.
Net income.
Okay,
Yeah, that's.
because you
your
don't want to
problem.
end at 0.
You don't want it to be 0 and
Yeah.
you don't want it to be a negative number.
Okay, so we don't really want to touch 5 for residual in an ideal world.
You would like, so for a lot of places, what we see, is that. In this case, I'm gonna use percentages for the budget, though it's not been approved and nothing has been updated. I left a couple of notes for you guys earlier today. Payroll and benefits is currently at 61%. Again, based on estimates, based on salary schedule, based on all of these things that we've got. Supplies are at 12%, occupancy is at 22. So there is your 4% made up. So you're still looking at roughly 95% across across those 3 categories, even if the 4% that you've undershot payroll and benefits has been allocated out to salaries. They just want you to operate. Everything is reasonable. These are people we're dealing with. We're not robots. You're not robots. The district's not robots. But they don't expect you to blow all your money on. Like if they see 80% on payroll and benefits, somebody's gonna ask questions. If they see
As they
75%,
should.
someone's gonna ask questions, right? So, but that's where this becomes more. I'm sorry for saying it this way, but it really is. It's a game of like fitting pieces where they get.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I think, so to me, this represents a technical how.
Yeah.
I think there is the humanistic how,
Yep.
That we sometimes don't get to, because this is how I receive what you just said. There's flexibility and nuance to what we're doing. What I get nervous about is if we hold too strong to a 65 equals this next thing triggers, then we get into these like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
For what we're trying to do, and how can we start having better conversations, kind of like this one?
Yep.
Where we're actually like,
Working together.
yeah, handing each other
It's
ideas.
a dance.
Yeah.
And it should be that way. As far as the figures go, Proper tries to stay a little bit more rigid about like, hey, this is your benchmark.
Yeah.
Simply because when we talk to the district and
Yeah.
we've got a very good relationship when we see the way that they deal with those things, but also, I don't want to tell you like, yeah, it's all right if you go over, and then
Yeah.
something else goes over and everything breaks.
Yeah. And I think we agree with structure in that way of here's the template that we need to start with. And then as you say, like we're at 61, that doesn't mean that we're trying to run out and fill that 5% just to hit that exact number,
Yeah.
And so then it's like, how do we live with some wiggle room and nuance and flexibility?
And so if the conversation is, hey, the difference between where you contracted and where your benchmark is, if the difference is one employee, you may be able to make that up somewhere else.
Yeah.
But if it's,
Mhm.
if it's $100,000 difference, if
Yeah.
it's $150,000 difference, then there are more serious conversations that need to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you have to make your debt service, otherwise the school can't operate. You have to have teachers. I understand the tension,
Yeah.
like,
And right now, as it stands, you say we're at 61%.
yes.
I could add salary to put it at exactly 65%, and then we're gonna be below 1.2.
Right. Yes.
And so,
So it's an it's.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's also because our debt's at 24. I have another question. As we're getting into percentages, because this I get, I don't know the timing, but, there's also, it's been a new number for me, the percentage to educational spend. I know we bought the bus, so we're at like 30 something, and how is that folded? Is that also something that we can look at in a budgeting process? Again, not to be rigid, but just as we're looking at all of these kind of benchmarks, like,
No, I mean, that's certainly something that it's important to look at. The district, obviously, they want you to spend more than half of your money
Yeah.
on educational expenses.
is there a
spending
coding?
$6,000 a month on the bond.
I know that's the
So
difference.
like literally, if the bond payment was gone, there wouldn't be an instructional ratio problem.
No, I'm more asking as far, like, if we're getting these, so as we're creating process and growing and having conversations, like, I'm of the mindset, like, you make better decisions when you have the information. And so I think so we've got the salary, operate supplies, we've got all of those percentages. And I think to your point's valid, like, we don't want to wiggle just to hit 65, but I think knowing like, oh, we're at 61, like, yep, that sounds good, or, oh, we're at 70, well, that feels like a problem, like, just knowing where we are. Yep. And I think with that, it would be helpful from a like budget review process, just to know, based on this budget, what percentage are we looking at for educational spend? Like, and as a board, are we good with that or not? Knowing, I mean, we're already over operation because of the debt, like getting to 50 is going to be hard. But like, are we making progress? Are we at 48 or are we at 25? Like, just knowing that number, and then I don't think it's a rule, but I think it's like just bigger in how we allocate money and process, like what is the best decision? And
Can I, the way I'm hearing you speak now, seems like we're doing like the overall health check to see how healthy the school organization is currently and how we could improve it. Do you see that as like a multi-year thing to work through, or does it feel like oh, we're at 39 and we gotta figure out 20% this year to get it into that space. I have been here for so long
Mhm.
that I don't have a concept of time.
Yeah.
In the way that I've watched some people come in, like even a classroom, like a grade level teacher, they have their kid for a year and then that kid leaves and goes on. I've had a lot of these kids 5 years. And so like my concept of time and development and growth and all these things is sometimes a longer shot than most people.
Yeah.
When you talk about knowing these numbers, do you want to know them as like just a status check and be constantly making steps to meet those things, or is it like here are the benchmarks, we must achieve those within this set time frame? Does my
I'm gonna
question make
answer,
sense?
yes.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna answer it in, like, so as a nonprofit, when I make my budget,
Mhm.
our benchmarks are very different, but on our 990, we have to report what percentage is spent in program, what percentage is spent in fundraising, and what percentage is spent in administrative.
Mhm.
And there are, so the benchmark on program, like top, you have to get 70 or donors start asking lots of questions and people put red flags about you.
Mhm.
Like to shoot for is 80.
Okay.
So like you want, so that when I break, all right, I have $6 million. 80% of that goes in program.
Mhm.
And then 20% gets divided between fundraising and administrative.
Mhm.
There are years, 2 years ago was one, actually, where it was like, we really need a new CRM. Like our website keeps breaking. Like I can't fit that and keep the 80%. And so as a board, it was like, hey, we're gonna drop down to 75% program. And here's why. We need to make investments in this area. Had a discussion, the board's like, nope, like that makes sense. We could communicate that to donors. So when they get our tax stuff and it's like, why is this 75? Well, it's this thing. And so I don't, for me, while 80% is the goal, like I'm not killing myself. And in some years, there are real reasons why we choose not to hit that. There's some years we go above that, like we're killing it. And so I see having this information as staff is making, as in kind of this process, like as you guys are making decisions about what you need. And the board is providing oversight and reviewing of just knowing, so we're making informed decisions. Not that, oh, well, now we gotta, not, I guess it could be a board decision of like, nope, like we're gonna hold to this and that's it. Personally, I'm only speaking for me. Personally, I feel like the debt, like the bond covenants are already there, so let's not have too many
Mhm.
things that we like hold fast as law. But I would rather go into it so that we're all on the same page as to what we're approving and what the ratios are gonna be versus doing it without that information and then getting reporting and being like, well, why are we at 38%?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And it's super helpful when you're seeing like the whole of it, because all you're seeing is we're at 38%. But you're not also seeing at the same time, because whatever that other area is at 24%.
Yeah,
When you're seeing the whole picture.
Yeah.
Like you were just describing with your organization, it makes a lot more sense and it affects the way you see that 38.
And that's kind of from a like coding standpoint. Cause in my budget, it's easy, like we've got income lines and then program, and all the program expenses are 500 numbers that are listed, and then all the development numbers are 700 numbers, and then admin numbers are all 800 numbers, and so, that's our QuickBook lines, I don't know why,
Yeah.
but, and so like I can really easily see in categories how it's broken up. I don't know, like if I'm looking at the financials, how do I know what's coded? Where percentage is, or is that just something that could be to circle way back on like template? Cause right now on the template, we've got the like debt service coverage ratio thing.
Right.
Is it easy to pull so we know what percentages we're leaving on different stuff?
I think that's definitely something that we can create.
Okay.
To have an ongoing perspective on where things are.
Okay.
Yeah, I think honestly, the template that we've created may also lend to being able to have a little bit more clarity in our reporting. To say like, all right, budget was here, but year to date, we're at, 71% of our revenue. Do we expect that to be made up, if our salaries stay the same, but our income increases, will that sort of even out through the year? And those can be the conversations we have as opposed to, we're a payroll, I don't know. And so I think that's something that we can translate over, to monthly reporting. Or at the very least, quarterly and regular. And if you say, John, how is that? And we can have a figure that approaches that.
Let's circle way back to timing and then,
So I tried to get a start.
yes,
What I didn't know is like, is the board in that February, March area, is the board approving or seeing that? Or is that just between Copper and the school? Because it sounded to me like the actual budgeting process
mhm,
is going to happen effectively in April and May, which means the board would be approving it at the June meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that whole 65% thing, do we want to be informed as a board or?
I would think yes. I don't think it needs to be a voting action, but
Informed?
Yeah.
Yeah. We could say at the March.
Yep.
And then that kind of kicks into budgeting season.
Yep.
And I don't know, like, how early the finance team needs to be getting involved so that,
I think finance team's later, but I think in the February, March timeframe, in between C and S, I think the academic committee is involved.
school and the academic committee.
Yeah. Cause I think they're looking at that list. I got it. Well, Paige has it.
I didn't show you.
Okay.
Nice infographic.
The school and the academic committee of the board review and approve.
Yeah.
Before the contracts are issued.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what I was saying, is I don't know how early in the actual budgeting process, the finance committee, I don't, like, this is a really big window.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure they're getting pulled in
Yeah.
at the right time. Yeah.
But I think with that too, I think that's a good window because I personally have liked how we, do it of like kind of having a first review for the board. I do agree having like regular, all of this process should be a lot smoother. But I try really hard, I'm not always successful, to not have the board vote on anything that they're seeing for the first time. And so I think in that process, like there can be a first reading.
In May,
Mhm.
even if it's
Or
not
even in April,
complete,
yeah.
just a,
Yeah,
here's where we
we're
are.
looking,
Yeah.
yeah. How does all of that feel to you, Curtis?
Yeah, it was great. I got a little confused about the instructional spending conversation.
Yeah.
I really don't know how we improve that unless we're like increasing enrollment or revenue. Like the bond payment will always be
I
there.
know.
It seems like we're just kind of
Yeah.
at the mercy of that unless we get more money to buy more instructional things. So like, I don't.
Yeah,
is there a
mine is
way-
that something that we're looking at when we're creating the budget. Just to keep in mind, and again, with the bond payment, like 50% is probably over ambitious, and so not tying us to that number, but just instead of like looking at the reporting after it's been done and wondering how we got there, doing a little more of like, this is where we're looking to be, is 46%.
Which I think I'm wondering, I'm the spreadsheet guy in school. I think, I'm wondering, is there a way in the template to just like what lines, what budget lines are being, what codes go with instructional? And then if we can just like have all of those things together so that we can just see, it's what you did for, it's the exact same thing that you've done for, staff.
Yeah.
Whereas we change those things, it changes the percentage, like.
Yeah.
I just put that in.
Thank you, John.
And
Um,
for what it's
if
worth,
we can-
Jonathan, like if your monthly report is going to include that and the instructional spend percentage, I feel like I've heard you mention that regularly, is this. But to take your example, but if the board decided that 75% is okay, even though 80 is the goal.
Yep.
It would be nice for that, like
Be a
reminder
part of the
to
conversation.
be a part, like, okay, our instructional spend is at, the districts wants 50%, but we all decided that we're comfortable given the situation at 40%. Then we don't, like, 38,
Our
40
goal
feels
is
a
40.
lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and truthfully, I think some of the, like, what numbers Jonathan you were talking about, question may come from just simply the ways that each section is labeled. Because for some of our other schools, and the way that I look at it is based on a specific 3-number code that the state gives. Says, all right, elementary program is gonna be 113. And so any code that starts with a 1, any 100 item is considered instructional spend. But I look at this and I can tell you exactly which ones they are because I've spent way too much time digging.
Yeah.
But if it would help, we can put, hey, 118 is parent family literacy. 162 is limited English proficiency, and having the number there that would then translate, you can say, okay, this is why Jonathan's adding these numbers into the calculation, as opposed to just trusting me. I like that you trust me, but that's, I like for you to be able to verify. Auditors always say, we trust but verify.
Amen.
That's it.
Yes.
Okay. How I'm gonna recommend that we move forward with this conversation, and I'm very cognizant it is 7:58. Figured that would be so too. Three things as far as who has what ball when. Paige, I would like to essentially turn this into like a memo of understanding. That then gets sent out to the board so we can look and after we've marinated on a week and be like, nope, like this works. I also think we now get to live within it for a month and feel like, does this work? So Paige, if possible, if you could get the minutes out like in a week and then I could turn this conversation into official like memo of understanding to send it out. And then as a board in June, we can officially approve it, or we can decide, hey, we forgot 6 things and we're gonna amend it. So Paige is gonna have the minutes fall and then she's gonna give it to me and I'm gonna make the memo of understanding and then I'm gonna send it out. So that's step 1. Living in this, I know I've got budget second review. I know it got emailed out. I think the step, missing, I would like for Curtis to have the budget second review all and to get with Jonathan to review whatever notes and kind of hash out, and then we will schedule a finance committee meeting. Or we can go, I'll get a date on calendar, that we're all there and we can review, and then June, we can do the board budget thing. Summarize. So good. Am I missing something?
Beautiful.
Perfect. All right, with our,
Well done, Sarah.
negative time. Thank you. Your whiteboard is very helpful.
Well, The way you organized it, I think was it worked, so well done.
It was a good, in person, I had a good phone call and figuring out what actually needs to be said, and then that was good, so. On the things that we have to do before we page, are there grants we have to approve? Yes. Okay. Can you rapid list those?
Okay.
I know I'm going out of order. Hold on.
The grants that Sarah's asked for approval on the Community Foundation of Greenville. There's two, there's the capacity building and the Margaret Linder Southern. Then there's the SC Arts Commission, Huntington National Bank, Lee Foundation, and Greenville Water.
I move to approve those. All in favor? Any opposed?
Can't say, no, looking at me like I didn't say.
I saw Darren raise his hand. You commanded.
Yeah. All right, we have a plan for the budget second review, on, update on board nominations. So I had a conversation with one person, I'm following up with him, would really like, some new names, because as an update, I don't know if she's still on or not, so Tori and I had a conversation, she is happy for the next couple months to join virtually, but her husband got a new job and she has moved to Iowa. Yeah, yep. So that's obviously gonna make,
Their company, right?
yeah. So it's obviously gonna make attending here
I have so many questions.
difficult. So again, kind of for, yeah, numbers purposes, like, she's very gracious and will be willing to hang out virtually, but I do think it would be in the best interest of the school to have someone in not Iowa, as a board member, so, again, just my like plea of, if you know people, that would be a good fit, it'd be great. Just
I have a recommendation. We can talk about. it.
I was like, will you email it to me?
Yep.
Best at keeping things up there, it will not slip through, do it,
How many positions do you want?
ideally three. Three would be great. All right, can we wrap it? I don't wanna cut it, but Darian, is there anything in mission in a minute that is
Oh, let's see.
urgent, important? Can we combine it with principal?
Mission in a second.
Yeah, so, this would be real quick. Baseball wrapped up a great season. Said the baseball team is doing great, scored more runs than before, so that's always good. Lee hosted the first chess tournament, which placed first, talked about that before. There's a new garden, so sweet potatoes, all the good stuff there. And this is a good one. We are very proud to have a class of our developmental delayed students this year, first class, first year, and the served 4 students. So, yeah.
So,
Awesome things. And that's good for recruitment, sports and in those classes, good to,
Yep.
one of the ways to get people here, so.
perfect. All right, last, certainly not least, first. Yeah.
Hey, you mentioned got second place, right?
He did,
I wasn't able to stay for the whole tournament, but we've actually went 1, 2, 3, so. We did really, really well.
Oh.
Yeah, you got it. Really quick, principals report operations, we have been using Avila and it's doing very well. One of the things that it does a lot of different things with enrollment. One of the things that Suzanne works with Avila and highlights is that it will like take the parents' information and automatically upload it into PowerSchool, which helps like with the tremendous amount of like save time with that. We got to serve hot breakfast for a special and a special lunch this week in honor of our garden. So Chef 360 donated a special breakfast and lunch to like kick off our new garden. So that was great. Wow. And she said we're at 92% on-time submission rate in our epicenter. This is our platform that we submit information to our district. And she's really excited about efficiency. That's about it from her. I have a few more updates. Let me pull them up if I can. 1 second. when we were talking about the charging station, we had a conversation with, a person, let me find her name, Beverly Ward. She came to our campus. She's on the board of Greenville Women Union. We just had a conversation with her about our charging station. She didn't like really commit to anything, but it was a great like initial conversation that we hope that will lead to more conversations. She's also very connected with one of our other big donors that we know about. I don't know.
Yep.
Streaming the same names, but so hopefully that leads to a great relationship. We got new walkies through our grant and also new refrigerator. Our school garden was produced by a Greenville Clemson grant, and so those are just some new things that have been happening. Our staff are very overjoyed with our new walkie-talkies. They have a lot less feedback and a lot more peaceful around the building. From our instructional end, we work in intervention, we work in what's called tiers. So tier 1 is where we want most of our students to live. And that means like that high quality instruction is happening in your classroom, which should be, the majority of your school can like function in tier 1. Then you have tier 2 who might be struggling and they're pulled out into like small groups to address targeted concerns. And then tier 3 is even more time and even more targeted concerns are addressed during that time. Our coaches have since from fall to spring, we have increased the amount of students that are in tier 1 and decreased the amount of students that are in tier 2 and tier 3. I don't really I have the exact numbers, but for time's sake, we are grown tremendously as a school. And then from our student services perspective, those students that are in tier 3 that are not growing, the system shouldn't move them to an evaluation, which that happens, and those students are being identified as they are evaluated for disabilities, and they are also being served through as they qualify for IEPs and special services. So the system is working. They're growing, and then the ones that are not growing, they're being offered services. They're qualified for services. We had an ice cream truck here today in celebration of our SC Ready success and ending that. And so that was donated through Morris Jenkins. I think it's a AC HVAC company. So they donated these special treats to all of our students.
Nice.
And our coaches, I think, actually secured that, our instructional coaches. Yeah. That's all I got.
Oh, thank you. Well, I feel like accomplished a lot, even if we did go over, which irks the time conscious part of me, but I feel like it was well worth it. So unless anybody would like to add something else to the meeting, I will accept a motion to adjourn. Oh, good. A second.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor? Adjourned. Yes. Thank you for spending your evening with us, John.
So, honors.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The little one's probably sleeping on the house.
Yes, sir. It was, today is my probably half day week.
Yeah.
I'm really productive.